let's jump right into it. Jump into the running backs. Love, hate. And take a look at ranks 1 through 10. Christian McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor, 4th? You only put my man, JT, 4th. Did you see what he did last time? 5,000 yards and 1 million touchdowns.
I did indeed.
That's all right.
Kansas City has a very good run defense. I think they load the box.
Right.
Still 4.
Okay.
But just in terms of matchups and workload, yeah,
right.
I have JT at 4.
Still 3 spots ahead of Derrick Henry, who comes in at 7. Very favourable matchup to the King against the New York Jets, who obviously have no Quinn Williams. Not sure they've really faced the rushing attack to take advantage of that yet. But the King quietly seen his workload really ramp up the past 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, look at the touches, right? That first column, since week 6, he's had at least 20 touches in 5 straight games. He's averaging 105 yards from scrimmage during that stretch. And by the way, since this time, since week 6, when they've started, going back to King Henry, he also leads the NFL in goal-to-go rushing attempts. When they get in close, they give it to Derrick Henry as well. And it's worth noting, the reason we bring up the touches here specifically, Jay, is because that running backs that have seen at least 15 touches against the Jets, and again, since week 6, he's averaging over 20. But running backs that have seen at least 15 touches against the New York Jets, they're averaging 19.7 fantasy points per game. Derrick Henry makes the love list. As you saw on the screen, he's my running back 7 this week. High expectations for King Henry.
What I like about that, too, Matthew, is you saw on that screen all of those were double-digit fantasy point games. And for a guy like Derrick Henry, who doesn't catch a lot of passes, and even some of those games he didn't get a touchdown, but still being able to get those double-digit fantasy points is key for a guy like him.
Indeed. Speaking of big workloads, Bijan Robinson against the New Orleans Saints. Falcons 2-point dogs in that game now, but expected it will be close enough that he is going to get substantial workload, and I think GameScript should get too far ahead of them, and I think there's a very good chance, Matthew, he is the number 1 wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons.
Very true. You just criticized the fact that I have him ranked ahead of Jonathan Taylor. I have Bijan ahead of him for a lot of those reasons. I agree with you. I think he's not only the leading rusher, but very potentially the leading receiver for Kirk Cousins, who honestly doesn't seem to have the arm strength he used to have prior to the Achilles injury. Just feels so I could see more dump-offs than even normal with Bijan Robinson.
With Kirk, there's some Uncle Rico throwing the football over those mountains type of vibes. Just kind of seems to sail on Kirk at the moment. Chase Brown, Matthew.
Yes, sir.
Might have a new quarterback. He'll have an old quarterback returning against the Patriots. I'm a little skeptical that Joe Burrow will actually be back on Sunday, if you read between the lines of the reporting. But
he did practice in full yesterday.
Practice in full, yes. But Joe Flacco, the reporting has been that he is going to get the full practice snaps today with the first team. So I don't know. You're splitting time between Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco. If Joe Burrow is actually going to play on Sunday, we'll see. Anyway,
2 comeback players of the year. It's hard to choose.
Yeah, one of them might win it again next year.
That's right.
But the Patriots, they give up a lot of receptions to running backs, the most in the league. And Chase Brown should take advantage.
As you see, they're giving up 5.7 receptions per game to opposing running backs. That is the most in the National Football League. And the reason we talk about that over the last 2 games was Samaje Perine on the bench. He's been out. Chase Brown has a 26% target share. Over the last 2 games, Chase Brown is getting a 26% target share. Samaje Perine listed as doubtful for this Sunday's game. We don't expect him to go for the for the Bengals against the Patriots. And so you expect Brown to once again be heavily involved in the passing attack against a defense that, again, gives the most receptions per game to opposing running backs. It's also worth noting, over the last 2 games with Samaje Perine out, Chase Brown is 4th among all running backs in utilization score. He's averaging over 21 touches a game. Just so massive usage, not just in the passing game, but just overall as well. He's been averaging 19 fantasy points per game. He's been like a top 4 running back over the last 2 weeks as well. So I'm at running back 8 this week. I know the Patriots have a good defense, but I just think the usage will there. And if Joe Burrow comes back, here's what's weird is would the line move that much? Because Flacco's actually been pretty good.
I'm about to say, before last week's game, coming into that 4 games with him starting, they were averaging 32.5 points a game. Yeah. That's Joe Burrow, just off of production.
That's
it seems insane to say that, but
it would move, particularly after what Flacco showed last week.
Yeah, I get
that. But the thing is it's not as cool having Joe Burrow when your defense turns every opposing quarterback into Joe Burrow as well. This is, I'm not kidding, statistically, this is one of the worst defenses in the history of football.
Yes.
There is just nothing there. They go a 15-point fourth quarter lead to Justin Fields and lost in regulation. It's completely insane. Footballer.
In the history of the sport.
Yeah, in the history of the sport. Need to choose between these players in the sport of football for 2 running back spots at a flex. Chase Brown, Breece Hall, Quinshon Judkins, Tirico McMillan, and Travion Henderson. Too many options, 3 exclamation marks. Lawrence?
Well, definitely Travion Henderson.
I agree with that. I would also add Chase Brown. You just heard me talking about him. And then, so now you're looking at Judkins, Breece Hall, or Tirico McMillan. I'm going to go with Tirico McMillan.
Yeah.
T-Mac,
Yeah.
potential offensive rookie of the year. 6th in the NFL in receiving yards right now, I believe. Anyway, one of the names mentioned there, Lawrence, is Quinshon Judkins, who gets a favourable matchup against the Raiders. First favourable matchup in a while for Judkins, who's really struggled to generate anything on the ground, just no blocking in front of him.
Yeah, and not that the Raiders are some just complete pushover on defense, but they're like middle of the pack. But in these last 3 games, they've been semi-generous. We just saw Javonte Williams go for 93 rushing yards against them. Week before that, Dobbins 77, and then ETN 84. Judkins himself, he hasn't averaged more than 3.5 yards per carry in a game since week 5.
Yeah.
That was against the Vikings overseas, where he went for 23 for 110, had the long touchdown callback, so he really had a good day. And then you look at this over-under. 36.5. That's the lowest of the week.
And
that's the lowest. That's this tied for the lowest of the season. Know who had the other one? Browns and Vikings in that matchup. So I expect them to try to get the running game going, let Shedeur play off of that. That's what they tried to do with Gabriel too, but they didn't push the ball downfield. So Quinshon Judkins, I think he'll get a lot of opportunities versus the Raiders.
Yep. The good thing for Quinshon is at least it's different now. This is something different about the offense, because the status quo, that enduring, it was just Quinshon getting tackled behind the line over and over again. The Browns have been able to generate nothing in terms of just gaps for him to run through. So maybe we should do a bit more of a 3-point threat. There is upside for Judkins. Neck brace nation. So we get another little close look at Lawrence's famed blonde hair. Judkins or Genty rest of season? That's pretty close.
That is very close. That just sort of tells you here.
I
think it's Ashton Genty.
I'll probably still,
I
I got to still go Genty, because he's had multiple games with 6+ targets in the game. Judkins just not getting we don't know what it's going to look like with Shedeur. You just got to know what you're going to get with Genty, but I would lean
the
Genty.
receiving there, but it's close.
Yeah.
It's close, and it's not pretty.
Good question, Neck Brace Nation. All right, let's have a look at some others receiving votes. Headlined by Travis Etienne, who just keeps on enduring, Matthew.
Yeah, since week 8. Since their week 8 bye, Etienne, 21 touches per game. He leads all running backs in red zone and goal line rushing attempts in that span. Yes, we've seen Bashal Tutin come on, and we like Tutin quite a bit, but the Cardinals have allowed multiple rushing touchdowns to running backs in 3 of their past 4 games. So I think there's a chance that Etienne and Tutin could be useful this week against the Cards. How about Emmanuel Wilson? Still a chance that Josh Jacobs plays in this one, but right now we're operating with the idea that Wilson will be the starter for the Packers. 6 career games where he's had double-digit touches. He's averaging 13.3 fantasy points per game in those games. And then how about Ken Walker III? He gets Tennessee. Mike McDonald saying this week that Walker's earning more opportunities to get the ball. I mentioned that because 7 of the 10 running backs that have seen at least 14 touches against the Titans have scored at least 1 touchdown. More work for Ken Walker playing the Titans. Ergo, ipso facto, therefore, he makes others receiving votes. I'm at running back 19 this week.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge tell the way that Clint Kubiak called that game against the Rams, where even when they're down 2 scores late, we're still going to run the ball, because we don't want Sam Darnold in a traditional drop-back offense. I think they have the offensive line for that. Don't think they trust Darnold for that either. So Kenneth Walker is going to continue to get work, and the Seahawks should have a relatively low pass rate over expectation. T. Spitzky, I really need insight on Josh Jacobs' injury, because I have to make a decision on Emmanuel Wilson or Woody Marks this week in the flex, and that decision has to be made tonight, Matthew.
That's right, because obviously the Texans play the Bills in the Thursday night football game, and I get I would like Woody Marks tonight, obviously. Bills have struggled defensively as well, but I think the Packers are so run-heavy. Vikings 25th against the run over the last 4 weeks, so for me, I think I would just hold out and just say I'm going to start the Packers running back. Again, Marks has had really nice usage, but it hasn't turned into fantasy production. Only one of the last 3 games has Marks actually been good fantasy-wise. So I feel better about, quote, the Packers starting running back.
I don't think he has Josh Jacobs, though. So it's Emmanuel Wilson or Woody Marks. So I would go with Woody Marks for that because I don't think that if you have no better options,
that's different.
Okay.
If you have no better options on the waiver wire, then I think that I don't think the gap between Emmanuel Wilson and Woody Marks is significant enough to offset the risk that Josh Jacobs ends up playing.
Yeah, I agree with you actually. Okay, I misread the question. Yeah, but I would if you did have Jacobs, I would use the Green Bay running back.
Agreed.
Just
That's
wait to see. But assuming you don't have Jacobs, then I agree with you because there's a non-zero, and I don't know if it's 5% chance, 10% chance, 30% chance that Jacobs plays, but we've just seen this before where Jacobs, he's out. He doesn't practice all week, and then he shows up and carries the ball 20 times. And so right now we expect Wilson to play, but because there's a non-zero chance that Jacobs does return this week, I think you got to go with Woody Marks tonight.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.